Ho, ho, ho! Welcome along to Matchbook's Christmas special or weekend football edition. Boxing Day fixtures, and like Santa arrives, Adrian Clarke is back from his holidays. Welcome back, AC. Good to see you, mate. You look very bronzed and refreshed.
Well, look, I was more bronzed when I returned, but with me, it fades. Literally, the moment you go on the plane, the tan fades. But it was glorious, I've got to say, and I was very lucky to get away. It was, felt like I was coming back into a war zone, coming back into the UK. It's quite the culture shock, but yeah, I'm glad to be back here on this show.
Timing is everything, mate. And I don't know if you saw it on social media, Adrian Clarke, but your co-guest here, Marco here, has 17 winners in his last 18 selections on Matchbook Insights. But unfortunately, unbelievable stuff. Fortunately, time of the year, we're going into the winter European break, Mark. So you get to bring that record into 2022. 36% ROI too, mate. Really good going.
Yeah, cheers. I'll bask in the glory of those winners now for a couple of weeks, and hope that 2022 follows the same sort of trend. But as we say every week, it's not going to last forever. So enjoy it while we can. Last week was the Swiss game. I feared the worst when they went behind early doors, but thankfully they came back. They weren't the better team in that game, so rode a bit of luck in that for sure. But the goals-based bets in Italy just continue to pay out, don't they? Fantastic games, almost always in Italy at the moment. So, yeah, enjoying it, and fingers crossed the good form continues.
Yeah, we were chatting just before we went live that there's lots of Serie A fixtures on this Wednesday as we're recording. Wednesday afternoon, we won't be covering any of them today. We're looking at Boxing Day fixtures. Before we do that, I want to tell folks about the brand new sign-up offer we have at Matchbook.com. It is very similar to a previous one, but we've upped the ante slightly this week. It's a £20 welcome offer for you guys to get involved with. £20 back as cash if your first bet loses, and use the bonus code INSIGHTSRF when signing up to avail of this offer. Full terms and conditions can be found at insights.matchbook.com. So INSIGHTSRF when signing up for that offer. All right, guys, 4 Premier League games we're going to discuss today, and we're also going to 1 or 2 EFL bets, and Mark's best bet comes from Scotland. Starts early on Boxing Day, Liverpool Leeds, and let's take a look at the betting as we have it at Matchbook.com. Liverpool at 1.17, there's no surprise there. Probably the shortest price of the seasons to date. Leeds at 21.0, 10.0 the draw. Leeds getting a 2.5 point start. It's almost like an NFL handicap here at 1.864. This is a Bayern Munich kind of their classical kind of total here, Marco here. But Mark, even look at Leeds' schedule. It's been a bit of a murderer's row. Like, I mean, they've had Chelsea, City, and Arsenal the last 3 Premier League games, shipped 14 goals. It doesn't get any easier here kicking off Boxing Day for it, does it?
No. And look, those handicap lines, the total goals, they're huge, really. And I think you've got to be brave and pretty bold to want to back the overs or back Liverpool to overcome a massive handicap hurdle, regardless, really, because but it's warranted in fairness. And I feel sorry for Leeds. I do feel sorry for them because I believe the whole squad is vaccinated. They've not had any major issues with COVID, but injuries have come all at the wrong time and all at once as well. So for a club with, I think, the 4th lowest wage bill, one of the smallest squads in the division, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt real bad when you get some key injuries, and a lot of them are pretty much first team frontline players as well. So, other teams have managed to get games off because of COVID-related issues. Leeds have plugged on regardless, and just been sent to the cleaners a few times, unfortunately for them. But I think Harrison is due back on Boxing Day. Junior Firpo should be back from a ban as well, but they're still going to be scratching around for a side. It's square pegs and round holes. And it's chalk and cheese, really, compared to the consistency and selection they had last season, the continuity they had, the momentum they had from promotion as well. So, I think we all agree Liverpool should win this game and should win it reasonably comfortably too. The market gives them an 86% chance of winning. You can't really disagree with that based on the evidence we have to hand right now in terms of the Leeds team that will be playing. But, on this kind of show, I always try to pick out what I feel is a value angle, or possibly something where, as supporters of football and supporters of betting, we can get behind and enjoy, really. So, I don't want to be backing Liverpool to overcome a big hurdle or backing a really high goals line. So I thought, just based on what we know right now, which is the fact that Liverpool could be missing Van Dijk and Fabinho, Andy Robertson is suspended as well. Suddenly, you've got 2 of arguably Liverpool's most influential defensively minded players possibly absent. We don't know if they're going to be available at the moment for Boxing Day, but working on the assumption that they aren't available, I thought the 2.46 on Liverpool to win and both teams scoring was potentially something to sort of get behind and just support for a bit of an interest play, really, considering this is the 12:30 start, because we saw how Spurs caused Liverpool problems last week in terms of counter-attacks and transitions. Liverpool without Van Dijk and Fabinho in that game, and I think Leeds will look to do very similar, really. That's basically how Leeds play. It's just kind of all action, get the ball forward at pace and see what you can do. And they've only failed to score in 4 games this season in the Premier League. They scored in 21 of 28 away since promotion. And despite kind of being losing, I think they lost all 7 games against the top 7 so far this season. They've actually scored in 7 of 9 against the top half as well. And look, just a fortnight ago, a scratch team went to Stamford Bridge and scored twice and gave Chelsea a really good run for their money. And that's been lost on a lot of people, really, considering what's happened since then with the City carve up and then obviously losing to Arsenal as well. But it's not a confident selection. It's not a strong selection. It's just more of an interest play, working off the assumption that Van Dijk and Fabinho are missing. But obviously, if they are playing, this is one to sort of wait around for the team sheets probably, or if we get any news from Klopp in the pre-match press conference. But the flip side is, if they are available, you could look towards a 2.16 on Liverpool to win and both teams not to score. So Liverpool to win to 0. So either way, I just think you need to be pro-Liverpool in this way, in this angle, and try and find something that appeals to you. But yeah, it's not a strong selection. So eager to hear what Adrian's found.
Yeah, Adrian, look, I probably want to overthink here. Obviously, there's some absences there for Liverpool, but you want to get Liverpool on side, but what's the best way of doing that? Obviously, when they're 1.17 in the match odds, you've got to be a bit clever the way to look at this.
Yeah, you got to pair it up with something, haven't you? I can absolutely see where Mark is coming from. The both teams to score angle. There's some quite strong stats there on Leeds United. I wasn't aware they'd scored in quite so many matches, actually. So that is interesting. Look, Liverpool could have. They were lucky, I think, not to concede 6 against Spurs. It was really wide open, wasn't it? Particularly on those breakaways. The high line can be a problem, can't it? And they've got Joe Gelhardt, haven't they? Who's a willing runner up top. Rafinha, obviously, is an excellent player. So yeah, you'd give Leeds a chance to score in the game. But honestly, I've analysed the Arsenal Leeds game. They were diabolical. It was tactical suicide from Marcelo Bielsa. It's what he does in terms of the man marking setup, but because the players aren't quite good enough, because they've a lot of fringe players in there, because they're maybe a bit jaded because they're having to play more games than they would anticipate, they were way off it. And it's so easy to find cracks in a man marking setup when you're not at full tilt. I think you have to be bang on it to make it work, and they're just not at the moment. Arsenal's players were dragging Leeds markers into areas they should never be going.
Adrian, I asked Jonathan Wilson this last week, so I want to get your kind of opinion on this as well. Where does he go from here, Bielsa? Because he doesn't strike me as the type that will just totally change this thing around.
He needs to buy 5 players. That's what he needs to do. He needs to get bigger squads. I think we've all seen it. Since they came into the Premier League, that squad is too small. He relies on such a small collection of players, and it's come back to bite him this year. The tactics are fine if players are fresh and good enough and of the required standard. And at the moment, Leeds players aren't fresh and they're not good enough. It's a reserve team, really. I think Liverpool could run amok in the game. Most of their forward players are fit and available, even though they've got the defensive fragility. I would expect their central midfield to be a bit better in this match as well. I'm sure 1 or 2 players will return. So look, it has to be Liverpool. It has to be goals. And I think Liverpool and over 3.5 goals in the game is realistic. I really do. It's a 1.9 shot. Makes it attractive, in my opinion. It just takes away the element of, jeopardy in terms of Leeds actually getting a goal. So obviously it would rely on Liverpool winning 4-0 or 3-1. If they win 3-1, Mark's bet comes in at a better price, doesn't it? But from what I saw of them against Arsenal, they'll be lucky not to concede 5 or 6 here, Leeds. I genuinely believe that. And I can't see them changing from a tactical point of view.
All right, so which one of you guys is going to fold here? Because if I put in both of these selections, they're very, very similar. There isn't too much of a difference to them. So who wants to put their hand up and see the other guy here?
I'm happy to. Adrian's bet is definitely the more likely, I'd say, because the price dictates that as well. And Liverpool could cover the line themselves. So, I mean, we're all very much pro Liverpool, aren't we? So,
I think a smaller play on Mark's angle and a slightly more bolder, attack on mine because it's a short price. It's a pick 'em really.
And also, look, if you're interested, Liverpool -2.5 on the main Asian handicap line is there as well. All right, Liverpool and over 3.5 is the selection here at 1.9 for the early game on Boxing Day. All right, next one we're talking about is Tottenham Hotspur versus Crystal Palace. And Adrian, I'll start here with you first for this one, but let's take a look at the betting as we have it at Matchbook.com. You can box Spurs here 1.82. Palace at 4.9, the draw available at 3.85. Palace getting a 3/4 of a goal start in the Asian handicap at Matchbook.com, which appears on site at plus 0.5/1.0. That's a 1.86 shot currently, and 2.5 is the total. So what are we thinking here? Adrian, I wonder with Spurs. I mean, look, we have enough of a sample size now with content. No surprises. This guy is solidified this team. That is not the most shocking thing at all. No. But what are they? Are they value here at 1.82? It seems short against a Palace side that could cause some problems.
It does, but I think this is a difficult game to call. I really do, because I kind of like both teams. Spurs are improving under Antonio Conte. They're much better going forward, aren't they? There's that. They look a bit fitter. I mean, did you read the running stats? They were quite remarkable. I think they were averaging around 100 kilometers a game or something like that. And it's up to 115 kilometers per game. It's remarkable, the difference. And you can see it in their play. And there's more zip, there's more zest, and they are going to create more chances. But are they a counter-attacking team? Is that what Conte is building? And if this will be a different test for them, because Liverpool came at them and left holes. Palace, they're quite savvy under Patrick Vieira. I don't think they'll fall into that trap. So it might be a little bit more difficult for them to create the number of chances that they created against Liverpool. It was, they were incredibly unlucky not to win that. So Spurs going forward much better. I still don't really fancy them at the back. I think, and I do believe that Crystal Palace have goals in them. They've got options. Benteke's been on the bench recently. Edouard, Ayew, Zaha, they've all Gallagher. They're all in decent form, aren't they, in terms of scoring goals? So I feel that Palace always have that goal threat. But can I get on side with Palace in the game is the question I was asking myself. And I don't know if I can, because they've only won once away from home. That was at Man City. So it's a crazy stat. They've won one away game, and it's at the best team in the country right now. Loads of good performances on the road, lots of really creditable draws, but they've not actually won too many games on the road. And Spurs are, looking much, much better. So I'm not as confident as I want to be with Crystal Palace in this particular game. So sort of weighing things up, I've looked at this, and I do feel that Spurs should score with Kane and Son looking in great form. Ali, I thought was decent the other night as well. The wing backs were getting forward nicely. So I do think they could score a goal in this game. Palace don't keep that many clean sheets, but also I don't trust Spurs' defence, and I do think that Palace have a bit of ambition about them under Patrick Vieira. So I've weighed things up, and I've swerved the sort of selection on Spurs or Palace, and gone with both teams to score. And I think it's in an okay price actually at 1.9. Palace have gone away to some good teams this season and been dangerous, and I think they can do the same at Tottenham Hotspur.
All right, Marco here. I think you're broadly in agreement here that Palace can keep this relatively close. What's the angle here to be on side with them in an Asian handicap?
Yeah, I have. It's a really tricky game. I found this one really difficult to try and hang my hat on something, but I want to be pro Palace because I can't be with Spurs at odds on quotes at the moment. We've only had a 5-game sample under Conte. Postponements and the international break have meant Liverpool Spurs haven't played too often really. But what I've seen is that they're improving without a doubt, and I thought they looked fresh, they looked energised, they looked well drilled against Liverpool. But let's be honest, Liverpool did dominate possession territory in the shot count. Spurs did create some great opportunities and counter-attacks, but I think Adrian makes a really good point, and it's something I was going to talk about as well, is I find it hard to sort of get on board with a team like Spurs in transition when they are possibly adopting a counter-attacking approach against a team who aren't going to give them the same sort of freedom to attack down and space to sort of utilise. So, I think it's quite a difficult task to kind of switch mindsets and switch approaches game to game from being the big underdog, playing on the counter-attack against Liverpool, to being kind of firm favourites at home to Palace when you're expected to play on the front foot and score goals. So interested to see how it plays out. I think Spurs will get better as the season goes on, particularly without European competition now as well. So I think there's exciting times ahead. But right now, I feel like it's a time I don't want to be with them. And I think Palace are more than good enough to make this a competitive game. They've only lost 5 games under Patrick Vieira. Liverpool, Chelsea, United, Villa and Leeds. I think in a couple of those games, they'll feel like they deserved at least a share of the spoils as well. And they've had arguably the toughest schedule so far in the Premier League. They've been away to all the top 6 and they've performed really well in most of those matches as well. They get James MacArthur back, which is a really big plus, gives that midfield extra protection, extra legs as well. They've so far been pretty much untroubled by COVID as well, so should be well rested, well prepared. Yeah, it just feels like a bit of a banana skin to be back in Spurs at odds on. So I thought Palace with the 3-quarter goal start is a nice bit of insurance, because even if Spurs do win this match by 1 goal, we only lose half our stake as well. So a bit of protection there, but it's not a match I'm going to be heavily involved in.
Yeah, I've got 3 pro Palace stats that I can chuck in. The
Mr. Stats
might back up Mr. O'Hare there. Patrick Vieira is the most successful Boxing Day player in Premier League history.
Jeez, seriously. I knew it was a Boxing Day angle. You have one up for New Year's Day as well.
I love these kind of stories. Yeah, he's got a 100% record, 8 wins from 8 on Boxing Day as a player. No one else can match it. So he likes the festive period. Palace have the second low. I'm sure you might have covered this one as well. I'm not sure, but Palace have the second lowest XG against in open play of any team in the Premier League. Only Manchester City are expected to concede fewer goals than Palace from open play. I think that is absolutely remarkable, and that is a testament to the way that they're set up under Patrick Vieira. And as I was outlining, with Palace, they're always worth a goal. They've scored 6 more than Spurs this season, albeit having played a couple more games. So yeah, if you want to get on board with Mark's selection, there are 3 stats that support it.
Yeah. Bit of extra boost to it. I like it. So let's take the 2 selections there. Spurs, Palace, BTTS 1.9, and Palace plus 3/4 a goal at 1.86. And Adrian just gave an extra bit of boost to that. I like that. Yeah. Anything else? Any weather related stats that we can use?
No, I don't have those. I'm afraid. No, I'll try for next time. Yeah.
Yes, man. Be much appreciated. All right, good stuff. That is 2 selections there. So in North London, 3 p.m. game. All right, Villa Chelsea, the evening game on Boxing Day. Pretty good one. 5.6. You can back Villa here. Chelsea 1.75. The draw available at 3.8. Villa getting 3/4 a goal start at 1.96, and 2.5 is the total. Slightly shaded towards the under. Mark O'Hare, you and Jonathan rightly opposed Chelsea last week with Wolves with that handicap. You kind of wonder, obviously, they need some bit of firepower up front, because these false nines and this Pulisic up there, it's not really working. We think that Lukaku is in a go here for this one as well. It's the right time to be with Villa in this one?
Yeah, I think so. For me, it's a kind of rinse and repeat job here. Similar sort of opponent for Chelsea, sort of defensively organised, resolute, difficult to break down. And I think, could have said the same about the Wolves team, and Chelsea did find it difficult. Obviously, I think Wolves are much further along the process than Villa are under Gerrard, but it's certainly an area that they've been working really hard on. It's an area that Gerrard himself highlighted after being appointed, saying it's a key area of weakness which needs improvement. And I think the results have been pretty quick in terms of Villa's progression as a defensive unit. 5 goals against in 6 Premier League games. 3 of those came against Liverpool and Man City, neither of which were given a particularly easy ride by Villa at all. And you look at Wolves, produced very similar efforts against Liverpool and City, were then able to nullify Chelsea at Molineux. So I don't see why Villa can't repeat the same feat, considering how they performed against the big two. Now Chelsea were, of course, missing quite a few frontliners against Wolves. They didn't look very fluent at all. Thomas Tuchel seems to have lost all confidence in his midfield. There's been reports that he's rushing players back from injury to fill voids, to avoid playing certain players in positions. And I think Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku are possibly going to be absent again for Boxing Day. Really depends on their recovery from COVID and protocols there. But I think Kai Havertz should be back. So, but defensively, this is a team who we were talking about as the best defence on the planet just a couple of weeks ago, and they conceded twice or more in 3 successive games prior to that Wolves match, and struggling for clean sheets in recent weeks. I think there's issues there to be had, and I think Villa are a difficult team to sort of swipe aside, really. And I think they are going to get better as the season goes on. So the market's moved with Villa a lot this week already. There was quite healthy money on side to have Villa +1, but that seems to be gone now. It's below 1.7 as we record, unfortunately. But I still think opposing Chelsea is the way forward. Just backing Villa plus 3/4 of a goal still gives you plenty of insurance on side. If Chelsea win by 1, we only lose half of our stake. And I just think the fact that Villa have always got a goal in them, they've only failed to score in 3 games so far this season. And if they do score, Chelsea suddenly need to score twice or more to see this bet lose. Obviously, if you had the +1 on side, they'd require 3. But I'm not sure we're going to get that now between talking now on Wednesday and Boxing Day, because the market is moving against Chelsea. So, I know there's been COVID around Villa as well, but from the reports we're getting, it's more based on fringe players rather than sort of frontline first teamers. So I expect there'll be a vociferous crowd at Villa Park, and I expect them to be very difficult to beat. And I think now is another great time to oppose Chelsea.
Yeah, Adrian, in agreement there. I mean, you even look at Gerrard's fixtures, the games he has lost, they've been even impressive against City and Liverpool, haven't they?
Yeah, he's got them back to basics, doing the basics properly, and it's making them hard to play against, isn't it? And they've got really talented players as well, Aston Villa. So he's got lots to work with. I think it's looking increasingly like a smart decision to take on the Villa job, because I think that the young players looks exceptional, and they invested pretty well. I think Watkins, Ings, Buendia, and whatnot. They do have a lot of goal threats. So yes, I am in total agreement with Mark here. I did an analysis piece on Chelsea. It's not out yet, but fascinating. I broke Chelsea's season down into sort of 3 periods: the first 6 games, the next 6 games, and the last 6 games. And the quality of the chances that they create, especially from open play, has dipped alarmingly in the last 6 games. I think the absence of Lukaku and Werner certainly has had an impact there. It's not just that. They've become increasingly reliant on set pieces. The majority of their quality chances, and this is sort of 10% on the XG or above, have come from set pieces rather than open play in the last 6 matches. In the first 6 matches, they had 14 quality chances from open play and no set piece chances that were 10% or more. So that's how it's sort of flipped around. For me, obviously I've been away, so I haven't seen 90 minutes of it, but I've sort of looked at their form, and it looks to me as if the midfield has been one-paced without Conte and Kovacic. At the back, individual mistakes and lapses in concentration have crept in. And up front, as we've outlined, they've been a little bit powder puff. Without Mason Mount, this would be a crisis, really, wouldn't it? He's carried them in recent weeks. So yeah, I can't really get on side with Chelsea, and I think Villa on that handicap, given that they're playing well, given that they're not really giving up that many chances. I was looking at their XG against under Gerrard. It was heavy against Liverpool, 2.5-ish, but all of the others were under 1, except for the City game, which was only 1.04. So they're keeping teams at bay very, very well, Aston Villa under Steven Gerrard. So yeah, Villa on a plus 3/4 goal handicap is the one I would go for here. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game.
No, I don't think so. No, it'll be pretty low scoring and be potentially towards the fair. Just on that, you can see it on the ticker if you're watching. So I have Villa +1 at 1.71 is Mark's selection, and Adrian is taking 3/4. Let's play small but conservative. Generally, 1.7 is their absolute cutoff. So let's take Villa plus a goal at 1.71. But obviously, if you want a bit of a bigger price, and even if you want Villa, plus a half a goal, that keeps the draw inside. That's 2.24. If you want to be an extra bit aggressive, but Villa +1, and obviously if Chelsea win by a goal, we get our money back and we move on. And we'll do exactly that now as we look at the late game on Sunday night for Boxing Day. It is Brighton against Brentford, and the current betting as we have it at Matchbook.com. Brighton at 1.98, Brentford at 4.2, the draw available at 3.45. The main handicap line is a half a goal start for Brentford. That's keeping them on the draw inside as well. That's 1.91. 2.5 is the total. Adrian, Brentford haven't won a Premier League game since September 11th. Their odds on here are 1.98. I'm not buying that. Are you?
No, Brighton. You can't. Looking at the form and the results, it's you can't really back Brighton odds on, can you? Because funny thing is, I've got a hunch they might actually win the game. There's that little hunch because they've sort of not played for a while, and the results have been so dismal. And Brentford aren't exactly firing. They're certainly not as solid as they were earlier on in the campaign. It wouldn't be that far a stretch for them to win, but I can't tip them up because of that form line. They're just not scoring enough goals. In the last 5 games, the earliest Brighton have scored a goal is the 89th minute. So they've gone through pretty much 5 consecutive games with no goals. They did get one in the 89th and one, I think, in the 90th minute, didn't they? Both scored by Neil Maupay. So yeah, it's you can't back Brighton odds on when that's just happened, in my opinion. But with Brentford, 1 clean sheet in 11, not been the same without David Raya. They've obviously had injuries as well at centre half. I think Pinnock has had COVID, might be back this weekend. But it's not been that hard a run of games for Brentford. They've played it's not like they've been playing City, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. every week. They've played the teams that you would expect them to maybe beat, and the results have been mixed, but they've almost always conceded a goal. So for that reason, I'm a little bit wary about backing Brentford here. So yeah, it's a difficult game. I think that Brighton are clearly not high scoring, but with Brentford not being the best at the back, they've got a chance to nick one. Brighton don't often score more than one. I think it's only happened in 4 of 16 matches for Brighton where they've scored more than one. So if Brentford score one here, Brighton are going to find it very difficult to win the game. So look, I've weighed a few things up here. I'm going with the draw, which is a small play clearly because it's a decent price, 3.45. I can't find it in myself to back either team here. I really can't, for the reasons that I've outlined, and it would absolutely not surprise me if this is a 0-0 or a 1-1 game. I think 1-1 would be my on the nose selection, but I'll take the draw. But yeah, fascinated to hear what Mark might say here.
I was kind of surprised to see this game in the 8 o'clock slot on Boxing Day. It's like no disrespect to either team, but this didn't scream to me. We wouldn't even call that prime time. I suppose the prime time game is the 5:30 game realistically, but still at all. Marco here, what are you making of the market here? A tough game to kind of decipher and to kind of pick a side, but in terms of what the market is saying with Brighton at 1.98, you're not having that either.
No, if it sounded like I was kind of sitting on the fence on a few of the games earlier, I'd be happy to be quite bullish about this one. No way in hell am I backing Brighton at odds on. Absolutely no chance. And for that reason alone, I have to oppose them and be with Brentford plus half a goal. Really, really struggling to get to how the market thinks Brighton are an odds-on price here. Last season, we know all about their struggles in terms of results, but they were creating chances, limiting opportunities to their opponents. Results didn't really come until the end of the season. They got home pretty safely in the end. This season it just hasn't been the same case at all, particularly in terms of chance creation. They're not producing the same sort of level of performance. I've still got them around sort of being a top half team in terms of my ratings, but the table's very congested in terms of expected points and expected goals. But it puts so much pressure on that defence to stand firm because in terms of non-penalty expected goals, they're in the bottom 4. In terms of big chances created, Brighton are in the bottom 6. In terms of raw results, we know they're winless since September, 3 months, 11 matches in that sequence, they've scored twice or more just once, which was weirdly at Anfield. And across the whole Premier League season, they've won by a margin of 2 goals or more just once, which to me always hints at a team that's incapable of putting teams to bed, incapable of scoring goals and being dominant, really, which is what you expect or hope from if you're backing a team at odds on quotes, regardless of the opposition. So, yeah, Brentford have been hit by COVID quite badly in the past couple of weeks, but that's a possible explanation to some of the price. But I believe most of the sort of first team big hitters will be available for this. That's Ivan Toney, Ethan Pinnock, Sergi Canos will be back as well. Matthias Jorgensen, I think, is available. Brentford have scored in all but 4 Premier League games since promotion. And as Adrian says, if they score, it's hard to see Brighton scoring twice to get them beaten. So I think from a slight positive for Brighton, they get Duffy back. Webster should be back as well. But now Basuma is suspended as well, and he's a big loss in that midfield. But I have to agree as well as Brentford plus half a goal, which is one of my better Premier League bets off the Boxing Day coupon. The draw is a massive runner. They've managed to draw 13 of their combined 32 games this season, which is a 41% hit rate, which is really, really strong. But also, I'd take it a step further. Rather than just back the draw, I backed the 4.3 on the draw and under 2.5 goals. I cannot see this game being 2-2 or 3-3. So it gets you a nice kind of increase on the price of, 3.45 to 4.3, just by adding in the under 2.5 goals as well.
Yeah, like the angles there. Yeah. Obviously, look, don't disagree with the draw there, as Mark said. Well, let's maybe take Brentford plus a half a goal. It seems probably more obviously, just in case there's a 1-0 Brentford win, and we'll be kicking ourselves. That could happen as well. 1.91 that selection is. But of course, look, if you want to back the draw, we've got a brand new sign-up offer that you can do that. And if it loses, you get your money back. You get your 20 quid free bet back. And that's £20 welcome offer, money back as cash. If your first bet loses, use the bonus code INSIGHTSRF when signing up at matchbook.com. £20 welcome offer, money back cash. If your first bet loses, INSIGHTSRF, insights.matchbook.com. for full terms and conditions of that. And also insights.matchbook.com from Wednesday afternoon onwards, we'll recap all of those bets. But let's quickly run through them before we get to Adrian's EFL selection. Liverpool and over 3.5 was our first bet at 1.9. Palace plus 3/4 of a goal at 1.86. And also in that game, Spurs, Palace, both teams score at 1.9. Villa plus 1 goal at 1.71. And we just touched on there, Brentford plus a half a goal at 1.91. Insights.matchbook.com for a full recap of those bets each and every week. Adrian Clarke. Championship, Hull, Blackburn, both teams to score 1.83.
Yeah, I've had a look at the card. Obviously, it's really hard with so many games getting called off, and it's hard to know which games are going to take place. But I was at the Nottingham Forest Hull game actually at the weekend, just like about 60 hours after I'd returned from holiday. I'd been released from the wild on my PCR test, and I went straight to the City Ground, and it was a good game. And what struck me about Hull, who was second best to Forest, was just how brave they are in the way that they play. They've got 2 wing backs, Keane Lewis Potter and Ryan Longman, who basically are wingers or forward players, but they're playing in that wing back position. And when they have the ball, they are up front pretty much. They're very, very bold. It leaves them a touch vulnerable, but I like the mentality. And in this, since they've changed the system, Grant McCann, since going to 3 at the back, have scored a lot of goals. And they've scored in each of their last 7. Hull City, and earlier on in the campaign that they were really labouring in front of goal. So they're a team a little bit rejuvenated, and they're up against Blackburn, who are the most exciting team in the Championship at the moment. They've won 6 wins on the trot. I think they've scored in their last 7 matches as well. So both teams have scored in their last 7 matches. Brereton Diaz on 5. But it's not just him. Kadra, Buckley, lots of the players at Blackburn Rovers are contributing. And on the counter, they really are deadly. They mix up their play nicely. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good Championship game on Boxing Day. Both managers want to go on the front foot. Both managers want to score goals. And I'm tipping them to do that. And the price is 1.83 on both teams to score. So, yeah, that's my pick.
Like the case, Mark O'Hare in Scotland on Boxing Day. Rangers are 1.15 shot at home to St. Mirren. So we can't really take that. But you fancy them to keep the clean sheet at Ibrox, 1.75.
Yeah, don't need a sort of rocket science degree to try and pick this one out. But they've made a really encouraging start under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. 7 wins from 8 unbeaten games. The one they failed to win was a a dead rubber against Lyon in the Europa League. In the Premiership now it's 8 successive wins, 15 wins from 19. At Ibrox, going back to the beginning of last season, 26 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats in the league. 20 of those wins came alongside a clean sheet. They've conceded just 11 goals in those 29 home games. Really impressive stuff. So yeah, I mean, Rangers to win to 0 or Rangers and BTDS no at 175, a massive increase on the Rangers to win price. And a lot of this relies on the opposition, really. St Mirren have been hit by COVID pretty badly in the past week or so. They're having to sort of plough on regardless. They're playing Celtic on Wednesday night, which is hardly an easy kind of loosener ahead of the Boxing Day game. And they're at home, so they'll be putting a lot of effort into that match too before the sort of crowds reduce from Boxing Day in Scotland. And playing 2 old firm teams in the space of a few days is always going to be tricky when your squad is stretched. They're working from a much reduced kind of pool of players, and their record against the old firm in recent seasons, 9 defeats from 10, unsurprisingly, and they failed to score in all their away defeats against the big 2 in that sequence. Actually, just going into that Celtic game, they've been struggling to score in recent weeks anyhow, and managed just 3 goals in their 7 matches prior to playing Celtic. So winless since October. Quite happy to oppose them. I think 175 will be gone by Boxing Day.
Adrian Clarke, I think you've been with us probably over 2 years now, and I've never had an Arsenal best bet from you, I don't think. I have to go back and look at the record books, but you can tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
Arsenal to win and over 1.5 goals, 1.72. They're 1.44 at Carrow Road on Boxing Day.
Yeah. I'm a bit chipper on Arsenal at the moment. Obviously last night against Sunderland, fantastic. And yeah, they seem full of goals at the moment. There's a little bit more hostility about their play, and that was the thing that I was, banging on about earlier on in the season. Press better, be more aggressive, because this Arsenal team, they aren't City, they aren't Liverpool, they aren't Chelsea that in terms of talent and whatnot. Not going to always break teams down by that style of football. You've got to create chances by being aggressive. And I think Mikel Arteta's landed on that in recent weeks. And with Martinelli in the side on those transitions, they've got a runner, haven't they? Someone that will surge in behind for fun. So will Smith Rowe. So will Saka. Odegaard's in good nick as well. So, yeah, I'm quite bullish about Arsenal in general right now. They're not the perfect side. I'm not getting that carried away. But they're attacking much, 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 much better than they were. You've got to fancy them against Norwich, surely. I mean, they're a very short price to go to Carrow Road and win. Norwich haven't scored in their last 3 home matches, 3 tough games for Dean Smith, but they haven't scored. And when that happens, I feel that there's a bit of an onus. He's a new manager, of course. I think there'll be a bit of an onus on Dean Smith and the players to try and score goals, not be cautious. They'll want to go and entertain and to try and do something in the game. So I think it could be a really good watch. Arsenal and over 1.5 for me is a really good pick, because we must all fancy Arsenal to win, surely. And how many of us would stick our hand up and say, well, they're going to win this 1-0?
Yeah,
I don't know, not me. I want to get all the other score lines that are possible on side, and you can get that with this particular selection. So I think this is the best way in, and I'll be surprised and very, very disappointed if Arsenal don't win the game and this bet doesn't land.
You're getting the extra bit of juice there, because Arsenal to score over 1.5 goals is currently 1.6 as well. So I think you're obviously keeping that on side. So yeah, is it going to be a 2-2 draw? Probably not. So yeah. All right, yeah, like the angle there, ASC. Good man. You made our producer Dan very happy there in the background as well. It's good to see that. We're back again next Thursday for pretty good New Year's fixtures coming up, guys. Arsenal, City and Chelsea and Liverpool, something to really get the stuff into. We'll be back in next Thursday. A very Merry Christmas to both of you, gentlemen. Thanks for all your help all year long, to your families, and obviously to our listeners or viewers out there. Thanks for sticking with us all season long. If you are liking the content on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. Or if you're listening to us on your preferred podcast app, please leave us a preferential review. Until Thursday the 30th, enjoy your Christmas break, and we'll chat to you then. Goodbye for now.